Clark separating, taking, and hitting. Caitlin Clark with a difficult look from deep.
What you're about to see wasn't a game. It was a collapse happening in real time. She took it over. From the very first possession against New Zealand, the floor stopped behaving like a basketball court.
Caitlin Clark tries again. This time it's good.
And started reacting like a system under pressure. Every pass slightly too slow, every rotation half a step late, every decision forced under conditions it was never designed to handle. And as the gap widened, it didn't feel like a run. It felt like a separation, like two teams moving in different directions of the same timeline. One still trying to compete, the other already dictating the outcome. Because when Caitlin Clark controls the tempo, the game stops being about response and starts becoming about survival. And what unfolded next wasn't just a 101-46 result. It was a full-scale dismantling, executed in real time, one with no moment of release for New Zealand to recover, reset, or even understand what was happening fast enough to stop it. The keys to the franchise for months, maybe years if we are being honest, the gatekeepers of Team USA and the broader institutional machinery of women's basketball have been playing a very specific, very political.
And in for Clark. And draws the foul, 1.6. She goes sprawling.
And ultimately very futile game. They have been running a containment operation, a carefully managed suppression campaign designed to protect the old hierarchy, to shield the legacy guard, to slow down the tectonic shift that every single person with functioning eyes could see coming from 1,000 miles away. They used every tool in the institutional playbook, limited minutes, bench rotations that made zero competitive sense, starting lineups built around seniority rather than production, onto media narratives carefully constructed to distribute credit evenly, as if distributing credit evenly is how you win wars. But here's the thing about suppression campaigns. They work right up until the moment they catastrophically do not. And the moment Caitlin Clark's name was written onto that starting lineup card, the dam did not just crack, it exploded. Every institutional barrier, every political calculation, every backroom agreement about who deserves what based on how long they have been around, all of it was washed away in a flood of undeniable, measurable, mathematically provable dominance. The establishment was finally forced to do the one thing they had been desperately avoiding. They handed over the keys. Not some of the keys, not a supervised set of keys with restrictions and curfews and check-in times. The actual keys was the unrestricted, full access, no limitations keys to the most powerful athletic franchise on the planet. And the second those keys changed hands, the entire economic, tactical, and psychological reality of international basketball shifted permanently. You have to understand what this means in practical terms. This is not just about one player getting more playing time. This is not about a minor rotation adjustment or a coaching tweak. This is about the official, documented, publicly visible transfer of power from one generation to the next.
All Clark on the move, has Smith running with her. Gets it to her on the move. Beautiful two-person game.
And once that transfer happens, once the world sees what the new regime is capable of, when the restraints come off, there is no going back. There is no reinstalling the old software. There is no emergency board meeting where the shareholders vote to reverse the merger. The system has been permanently upgraded, and the previous version is no longer supported. The receipts are public, the numbers are final, and the new CEO has officially taken the corner office. 23 minutes that changed everything. Caitlin Clark played 23 minutes. 23, not a full game, not even close to a full game. She played roughly the equivalent of a half, maybe a little more, and in those 23 minutes, she produced 14 points, distributed 6 assists, and completely and totally rewired the spatial geometry of the entire basketball court. But if you are sitting there looking at those numbers and thinking that tells you what happened, you are reading the receipt and missing the transaction. What Clark did in those 23 minutes was not score points. She broke people. She bent the entire New Zealand defensive structure toward her gravitational pull so violently, so completely, that it created massive pockets of open space all over the floor. Space that her teammates exploited with absolute ruthless precision. Every time she touched the basketball, every single defender on the court had to make a calculation. Do I stay with my assignment, or do I rotate toward the most dangerous offensive player on earth? And every single time they made that calculation, they got it wrong. Because there is no right answer when the question is Caitlin Clark with the ball in her hands.
Clark pulls off that screen, knocks it down. Even with her body fading, she can still control that shot.
She ran the offense like a high-frequency trading algorithm, instantly processing defensive positioning, identifying the inefficiency, and exploiting it in fractions of a second. The ball moved so fast, the decisions came so quickly. Oh, the reads were so precise that New Zealand's defense went from organized to confused to completely broken in a span of about 4 minutes. And once a defense is broken psychologically, once the players on the other side stop believing they can get a stop, the game is functionally over. Everything after that is just arithmetic. And then there is the development that should be keeping every defensive coordinator in the WNBA awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling. The mid-range game. Caitlin Clark has added a deadly, biomechanically polished mid-range pull-up to an offensive repertoire that was already considered borderline unguardable. She is snaking the pick and roll, stopping on a dime with terrifying deceleration, and pulling up from 15 feet with a release that is mechanically flawless and functionally unblockable. Do you understand what this means? When a player who already commands panicked, help-side collapsing defensive attention from 35 feet out suddenly proves she can carve you apart from 15, she does not just move from superstar to megastar. She moves from elite to mathematically unguardable. There is no scheme for this. There is no film session that prepares you for this. The last theoretical defensive strategy, the final desperate scheme that teams had been clinging to, which was to force her off the three-point line and make her beat you from the mid-range, that strategy is now dead. She killed it. She killed it quietly, methodically, and with surgical precision in the offseason, while everyone else was busy recording podcasts, negotiating appearance fees, and posting vacation photos. She was in the gym. She was adding weapons. And now the arsenal is complete. The monopolistic backcourt. Now let us talk about the thing that should terrify the rest of the world even more than Clark's individual brilliance. Let us talk about what happens when you put her on the same floor as Paige Bueckers. Because the on-court synergy between those two is not just entertaining basketball. It is a monopolistic enterprise specifically engineered to bankrupt the competition and permanently eliminate any reasonable hope of competitive equity. Bueckers played a team-high 24 minutes of absolute operational brilliance. She scored 7 points.
Bueckers buries the jumper, and he actually brought up stats from a shooting slump Steph Curry went through.
Pulled down 3 rebounds, delivered 3 assists, and if those numbers seem modest to you, then you are fundamentally misunderstanding her role in this machine. Bueckers was not out there trying to be the star. She was the chief operating officer operating alongside the chief executive officer. She was the one making sure every single offensive possession ran at maximum efficiency, that every transition opportunity was capitalized on, that every defensive rotation mistake by New Zealand was punished immediately and without mercy. When you put 2 basketball minds that advanced, that fast, that creative, on the same court at the same time, it stops being a fair competition. It becomes a closed market. They are processing information faster than the opposing defense can react to it. They are making reads that the other team does not even realize are available until the ball is already through the net. They are generating points at a rate that is not just elite, it is economically unsustainable for anyone trying to compete against them. And the truly frightening part is that this was the first real look. This was the introductory offer. This was the free sample. The full product has not even been unveiled yet, and it already broke a national team by 55 points.
Mitchell will pop and hit.
Think about what happens when these two have 6 months of chemistry, a full season of shared reps, a playoff run where the stakes strip away every remaining hesitation. The rest of the league is not ready for that. And the honest truth that nobody wants to say out loud is that by the time anyone figures out how to slow them down, if that is even theoretically possible, it will already be far too late. The market will have been captured, the territory will have been claimed, and the competition will be fighting over scraps. and the bench mob in the second wave. Here is what separates a great team from an empire. A great team beats you with its starters. A great team wins the first quarter, builds a lead, manages the clock, and goes home. An empire does something far more psychologically devastating. An empire beats you with its starters, and then when you are already bleeding, already broken, already staring at the scoreboard, wondering how this happened so fast, the empire sends in a second wave that is somehow even more violent, even more efficient, even more personally offensive than the first. That is exactly what happened to New Zealand. And it is exactly why this was not just a win, it was a message. When the starting unit went to the bench with the game already functionally over, so the last thing New Zealand wanted to see was Rhyne Howard stepping onto the hardwood with absolute cold-blooded precision in her eyes. Howard did not just play well, she operated as a trained sniper with zero conscience. She went 6 for 10 from behind the three-point line.
Rhyne Howard wide open three, and it's good.
60% from deep on high volume. That is not just good shooting. That is a systematic destruction of whatever psychological resolve the opposing team had left. Every time New Zealand scrambled to recover, every time they tried to claw back even a shred of competitive dignity, Howard buried another three and pushed them further into the abyss. And operating alongside that perimeter devastation was the relentless physical interior presence of Angel Reese. Reese logged 17 highly productive minutes, scored 9 points, grabbed 4 rebounds, secured extra possessions through sheer force and will, and physically broke down the opposing front court until they simply surrendered the painted area and accepted what was happening to them. She did not finesse them. She did not outmaneuver them with clever footwork and crafty angles. She imposed her will on them. There is a difference, and the difference matters. Then you add Monique Billings going 5 for 7 from the field for 10 points and 6 rebounds. You add Kiki Iriafen shooting 66% for 9 points and 8 rebounds. And suddenly you are not looking at a basketball team anymore. You are looking at the absolute definition of a global monopoly expressed in athletic form. Depth this obscene, talent this concentrated, efficiency this consistent from the 5th player all the way down to the 10th. That is what makes a program not just dominant for one game, but structurally unbeatable for an entire era. New Zealand was not outplayed. They were outnumbered at every position, in every rotation, during every single minute of the game. There was no rest. There was no soft spot in the lineup to exploit. There was only wave after wave after wave of relentless, high-efficiency destruction. Uncomfortable truth about seniority. Now we need to have the conversation that nobody in the mainstream sports media wants to have because it is messy and uncomfortable, and it steps on powerful toes. We need to talk about the concept of seniority in elite professional sports. Because seniority, the way it is currently being applied in Team USA's roster management, is a toxic.
Clark off the Billings screen, gets it into Monique Billings, and that's her first bucket.
A deeply inefficient institutional metric designed to protect legacy operators who can no longer justify their position through raw, measurable production. The contrast on the floor was blinding. When Clark and the new generation were running the offense, the basketball moved like electricity. Reads were instant. Decisions were lethal. The pace was suffocating. Defensive inefficiencies were identified and exploited in fractions of a second. Transition opportunities were attacked with the ferocity of a predator that has not eaten in weeks. The scoreboard moved in violent bursts because every single possession was optimized for maximum damage. And then when the legacy guards checked in, the entire system slowed to a crawl. The ball stuck. The offense became predictable. The spacing collapsed. Isolation sets replaced ball movement. And the defense on the other end, which had been getting shredded and demoralized for the previous 8 minutes, suddenly got a chance to breathe, to recover, to remember that they were actually professional basketball players too. This is not a personal attack on anyone's legacy. Championships were won, accolades were earned, careers were built that deserve respect and recognition. But the modern game, the hyper-evolved, pace-driven, analytically optimized game that Caitlin Clark has forcefully imposed upon the sport, is completely and utterly unforgiving to players who have lost their lateral burst, their first step explosion, their ability to process the game at the speed the new generation demands. The pace of the transaction has simply become too fast for the legacy hardware. Sawing and continuing to build lineups around historical achievement rather than current kinetic reality is not loyalty. It is institutional malpractice. It is the sporting equivalent of a Fortune 500 company refusing to upgrade its operating system because the old one has sentimental value. That is how you lose market share. That is how you get disrupted. That is how you get left behind. The real game being played, and if you still think this is just about basketball, about wins and losses and box scores, you are missing the entire point. What is actually happening right now, the real game being played underneath the game everyone sees on television, is about money. Massive, unprecedented, landscape-altering money. The collective bargaining agreement negotiations are coming. What if the players are fighting for a massive slice of the global television broadcasting revenue that Caitlin Clark and this new generation have single-handedly created? And Clark is not just a player in those negotiations. She is the battering ram. She is the single most powerful piece of leverage the players have ever possessed in the history of women's professional sports. Every time she steps on the court and the ratings spike, every time she pulls up from 30 feet and the arena erupts, every time her highlights flood social media and generate millions of impressions, she is actively negotiating her next contract in real time. She is proving to the multinational conglomerates and the television networks that she is the sole engine of the viewership economy. These international games are not just competitions. They are live-fire demonstrations of market value. They are proof-of-concept presentations delivered to boardrooms full of executives who control billions of dollars in broadcasting rights. And the 101-46 destruction of New Zealand was not an anomaly. It was the establishment of a new baseline, the new minimum standard. The floor, not the ceiling, of what this team is capable of when the most valuable commercial asset in the sport is allowed to operate without restriction. When Clark signs her next professional contract, and make no mistake, it will be a contract that rewrites the financial infrastructure of women's sports entirely, it will be because of games like this. Games where the dominance was so total, so undeniable, so mathematically overwhelming that no executive, no owner, no network negotiator can sit across the table and pretend the value is not there. The value is screaming at them from a 55-point margin of victory. It is screaming at them from the television ratings. It is screaming at them from the social media impressions. It is screaming at them from every single arena that sells out the moment her name appears on the schedule. The leverage is no longer theoretical. It is kinetic. It is measurable. And it is about to be monetized at a scale this sport has never seen. Because what we just witnessed was not an ending. It was a signal. A 55-point margin doesn't close a chapter in sports history. It redraws the map. It forces every front office, every coaching staff, every player who thought they understood the hierarchy of the game to quietly reassess where they actually stand in it. And now the uncomfortable truth begins to settle in. If this is what happens when the system is still being figured out, what does it look like when it is fully optimized? When the chemistry stabilizes, when the rotations tighten, when every piece is placed exactly where it was meant to be? Because this wasn't the final form, it was the early warning. And somewhere, in every arena that still believes it is safe from what's coming, the same question is starting to surface in silence. When the next wave arrives, who exactly is going to be able to stop it?